He states that they know Dustin has more information. This is a direct confrontation approach to interrogation.
We've talked to several of your friends, we've talked to several of his friends, and they've told us some stuff. They've told us some phone conversations they've had and everything. So what do you know?
I don't know anything.
What do you know?
Nothing. All that I know is what the FBI told me.
Why is the polygraph telling me different? Why is your body telling me different? Why is your heart telling me different?
I'm nervous.
Nervous has nothing to do with it. We've talked about that.
The interrogator is looking for a reason why Dustin is nervous. The polygraph test is all about psychophysiological detection of deception, PDD, or the use of physiological measures to detect lying. It measures certain autonomic physiological markers, such as heart rate, perspiration, and blood pressure. Examiners measure these markers at suspects' baselines before they're interrogated. Then they measure how these markers change from question to question. These markers are associated with anxiety, which is often present when one lies. The interrogator knows that Dustin is nervous. However, the polygraph cannot show exactly why he is nervous, when he is nervous. An adrenaline spike to a question could indicate lying or some other form of emotional arousal, not directly related to the topic of the question. The interviewer isn't outright saying if he failed the lie detector test. Later case documents revealed the polygraph's results. Alyssa's boyfriend was asked 3 questions during this polygraph, all concerning Elizabeth. Did you physically cause her death? Did you physically take her life? Did you do anything physical that ended her life? He answered no to all 3. Yet according to the case files, it was determined that he was being deceptive in some way with his answers to all 3 questions.
Nervousness has nothing to do with it. Nothing at all. Your heart rebels against a lie when you don't want to tell a lie. And there's nothing you can do to control it. You can try to control your breathing all you want. You can think of other things all you want. But your heart, that right there, you don't tell the truth.
The heart is the first autonomic physiological baseline measurement collected. Some studies suggest that both heart rate and respiration rate show no significant increase or decrease, depending on whether the subject told the truth. But research has produced mixed results. Regardless of these inconsistencies, what is most telling is how suspects respond when under the impression that they were caught in a lie. Let us see how Dustin reacts when the interrogator implements this technique, a technique we will explain in just a moment.
What if I told you that we did a neighborhood canvas out there? We talked to all the neighbors that live out there, even the neighbors that live in the subdivision behind where the live in the subdivision behind where we live. We talked to all those neighbors. We did a spot check out there with cars. Now all the cars that came off and came through there, we stopped and talked to them. What if I told you somebody saw a kid about your size in a black hoodie with a black t-shirt and blue jeans on, standing there on the side of the road next to the guardrail?
From that point on, we see the interview begin to use what is called the Reed technique. The Reed technique is an interrogation type used in the accusatory process. An interviewer tells the suspect that the results of the investigation clearly indicate they committed the crime in question. It's a 3-phase process, beginning with fact analysis, then a behavioral analysis interview. This phase is designed to be non-accusatory to develop investigative and behavioral information. The 3rd phase follows, when appropriate, the 9 steps of interrogation.
And we did a photo lineup.
So you can do it for
We did.
During the initial neighborhood police canvass, the eyewitness said that they had seen a strange boy in a dark t-shirt and baggy pants standing alone at a guardrail near where Elizabeth went missing. The eyewitness had been shown a copy of Alyssa's boyfriend's driver's license photo, and they claimed that the picture resembled the person they had seen. We know that eyewitness testimony is notoriously inaccurate. Though admissible in court, witnesses rely on autobiographical memory, specifically episodic memory, which is a type of recall involving events with contextual details, such as where and when something occurred. This type of memory is sensitive to memory bias. A witness might recall a suspect wearing a blue shirt a day after the occurrence, but state that the shirt was red a week later.
So why is that?
I wasn't there.
Alyssa's boyfriend comes across pretty confident, borderline defiant, when he looks the interviewer
Gold,
directly
white,
in the
red,
eyes.
white.
It's interesting to see him be combative with the interviewer at the mention of law enforcement having already done a photo lineup. Contrary to popular belief, anger is a more common reaction in individuals accused of something that is not true. If law enforcement had completed a photo lineup and it led to a positive identification, he would have already been arrested and charged. The constant accusation becomes exhausting, and suspects just want the process to end. They assume that admitting something will end the interrogation, and most suspects think that invoking the rights of silence and counsel will label them as guilty. Alyssa's boyfriend is strong-willed throughout the entire interrogation and didn't take any of the bait the interviewer dangled in front of him. After he is questioned by the interrogator in the video, he's then questioned by Sergeant Rice. It was then that he confirmed the investigator's suspicions all along. He had been hiding something.
Exactly. What did she tell you? She told us that she okay. Told you that she killed her. She told you that she strangled her. And what else?
Cut her. That she didn't know that she just strangled her and cut her.
On October 22nd, Alyssa had gone to his house and told him about the crime she'd committed just the day before. He denied having ever been involved in the crime and said he wasn't present when it happened. So why had he lied?
One down, 3 to go.
Once she ever found out that I gave away information that got her locked up, when she, like, I have a family, and she finds out where I live because she's obsessed about it and kills everybody. What if she gets out on bail and she finds out a way how to take off her ankle bracelet, and she comes and kills me in my sleep and my mom, and then finds out where my sister lives and kills her.
Scared of her. What?
Her, if I'm gonna have any more girlfriends like this.
Jesus, I never had this much trouble. Click it. Bitch.
You poor guy. Well, I guess
They're not all crazy.
I guess that's understandable.
Dustin was never implicated in the murder of Elizabeth Olden. Back in Alyssa's interrogation, Sergeant David Rice pulls a map of the surrounding woods and neighborhood.
There's like a tree line. Do you want to draw this for you? I have a map. Oh.
Now, the thing about this map, I don't think it has where your actually house is. So the way I understand the new house would be right back here, is that right? Okay, let's say the new house is ballpark here.
And then there's a trail that goes out here, and it's like right.
Draw for me, please.
I'm not exactly sure how far back it goes. It's like past all the clearings, and then when it starts to get to like a smaller trail and whatnot, there's a little side thing. It's like a side trail I go off on.
Just something we always do is we walk a person through their day and we make a timeline just so we go through everything. So what time did you go for your walk?
The interrogator is using the TED technique, or the Tell, Explain, Describe technique. He is making it clear to Bustamante that he wants her to recount the day of events as a narrative. By recounting the day of events as a narrative, Bustamante is more likely to reveal other telling personal or contextual details.
I went for a walk around 4:30 or 5.
Okay. So how long, when you got home about 3:30, how long were you at home messing around before you went on your walk?
I was home at least an hour.
Okay, so about 4:30 or 5.
Right. Well, there's a, I believe that this little line here is the trail or something. But
Did you go out all this way over
Yes.
here? And then where'd you go from here?
I just kept following the,
Where does it go from here? Show me.
The interrogator speaks more rapidly and presses Bustamante for an answer. During this portion of the interrogation, Bustamante has displayed many disruptions in speech, frequently saying and like, and altering her vocal intonation.
it
Ballpark.
goes like, it does some turns and whatnot, but it's a pretty easy path to follow. It's like
Okay.
a road path.
Well, I mean, show me what, does it loop back around now?
No, it doesn't move. It like goes this way, I think.
Okay, and then what'd you do?
And then there was a pasture I just hung out at the creek.
And then what'd you do?
I came back.
Then you walk back?
Yes.
And then what'd you do?
I went home.
She draws out the I and ends by saying home with an upward inflection.
I went home.
This is what linguists would say. 1. Upward inflections are used when asking questions. Bustamante lacks confidence. 2. Drawing out words conveys a double meaning, but the statement is not implicative, or not meant to convey a double meaning. Put together, her underlying communication is, I am not confident in what I am saying, and what I am saying is in conflict with what I am thinking. As we move forward, listen for these subtle cues. Sometimes it is not just one word, but a combination of words that tell the true story.
How long did that take you?
It takes about...
How long were you on your walk?
Oh, what? It's about 15 or 20 minutes, I mean. Right? That was the first stop after we went in? We took that test with him?
It's been a long
Yeah, I don't know. It's
How long were you gone that day after walk?
I was gone for about an hour.
Okay, so you were gone about an hour. When you walked up there, the cow pasture, what were you doing?
I was just, enjoying nature, taking a walk.
Alyssa happily draws the path she took on her walk for Sergeant Rice, which confirms her knowledge of the surrounding woods. She recounts her day again. Suspects are typically asked to repeat their story several times so that law enforcement can look for inconsistencies or for information that only the perpetrator of a crime would know.
We went to church, we just did the activities till 8, and everyone was crazy.
So you got back at 8, and then what did they tell you? What?
Well, they were like, yeah, there's 3 shanties and people are out searching for her, they can't find her.
They just said she was missing?
They were like questioning me about they didn't actually question me that day though. I went up to take a shower, and then they just left or something.
So they just told you it was missing?
My grandpa did. Yes.
How did that make you feel?
I was just, I didn't think it would happen.
The interrogator asks how it made Bustamante feel, and she responds cognitively, explaining what she thought instead of how she felt. It is easier to describe thoughts than emotions for individuals who struggle to identify emotions. It could be reasonably assumed that Bustamante is emotionally stunted in certain but not all ways.
Like, things like this don't happen.
Even though she says that she didn't think something like this, a little girl going missing, could happen in St. Martin's, Missouri, she doesn't seem too concerned or shocked or surprised. The investigator then asks what Alyssa knows about Elizabeth.
Tell me about her.
Well, she's 9.
Okay.
I don't really know that much about her.
Tell me what you do know about her.
Okay. She'd come over and swim. She's kind of girly, like not like naturistic, I guess.
Okay.
She can be annoying.
Okay. Well, there's been, there were some folks out there, out in the forest, I guess, digging some holes or looking at some holes. And I guess they said that you like to go out there and dig holes, so I'm going to have to ask you some stuff about yourself.
Okay.
Because, obviously that plays in where they were looking at holes and you're out there in the forest and that sort of thing. So I guess just tell me a little bit about yourself so I understand where all this is coming from.
I really like nature, animals, being outside. It's just, nature and stuff like that. And I get bored really easily, and I'm entertained really easily. So, digging holes is just something to do.
Alyssa keeps this explanation casual and surface level. It sounds like digging holes is genuinely a hobby for her, which doesn't seem too odd given the fact she's a teenage girl in a small town with probably not a lot to do. But at the same time, it's still interesting to note. She mentions that her brothers and her dig holes all the time, sometimes near their home, sometimes out in the woods.
Okay. You just like to dig holes?
And I like to climb trees.
Okay.
And I bury dead animals that I find so disrespectful.
Okay.
It almost seems like Alyssa is beginning to understand where the direction of questioning is starting to head. Yet her behavior remains calm. David Rice, as the main interviewer, is playing everything very casual. He makes it seem like he's on her side and doesn't believe she has anything to do with Elizabeth Olton going missing.
What kind of holes do you dig? Tell me about these holes you dig. You dig them a certain way? Every time, or just dig a hole?
Just dig a hole, pretty much.
Okay. Just wherever they're at. I mean, do you dig at a certain spot or what?
Whether digging holes is a hobby of Alyssa's or not, she makes it seem like the most normal thing in the world for a 15-year-old to do in the woods.
I'm such a not dirt kind of girl.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. I don't do worms and I don't do dirt.
Well, I'm in rugby,
Oh,
and so like we do a lot of contact physical in the mud and whatnot. And
there's been several
really
girls
enjoy
playing
that.
rugby. That's kind of the thing right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
The interrogation turns into a friendly conversation between the juvenile counselor, Ms. Toby Mayer. The woman sat next to Alyssa and told the rest of the room about how girls' rugby is a new sport to the area.
High school girl rugby, and they get after it.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yes,
do.
they do.
The school
I'm
doesn't
sure
sponsor
they
it
do.
because it's too dangerous, but there's a team in Jeff
I know there's
City.
at least 2 teams in Jeff City.
Yes, I'm not sure about the other ones. So
And you love it.
I do.
And you love the mud. And
It's
you
so
love
much
dirt
fun.
under your fingernails. Do you mind worms?
Sergeant Rice gets right back to business, steering the conversation back to the holes.
This hole that you dug, when did you dig that hole?
Sunday, I
Sunday.
believe. Yes.
Why did you dig that hole?
Because Sunday I was bored. You don't really much on Sunday. Can't watch TV, play video games, you know. So Saturday, Saturday.
There's something in her voice that tells you she's not being entirely truthful. She's also beginning to nod her head a lot, which could be her way of trying to convince Sergeant Rice that her story is true.
When did you dig it?
Ooh. I think my grandpa would have the exact time.
This statement is odd. It's unclear how or why Alyssa's grandpa would know the exact time the hole was dug, especially considering what is revealed later.
I don't really.
What were you doing Sunday? Tell me about Sunday.
Her nonverbal indicators are more obvious. Look for the self-pacifying behaviors mentioned earlier, in addition to new behaviors like lip-licking and interlocking fingers.
We didn't go to church Sunday, right? Because we were at Mom's house, I believe. I was at my mom's house for the weekend. She lived at the lake. And we came back around 5, and I know I got it before dark, so it was sometime in between. Wait, what time did we come home? Well, it must have been in between like 6 and 7, I guess.
You picked her up where?
Jeep.
You picked her up at 6 p.m. at Eugene. And it's how long of a drive? So you got back home 6:30, 6:45 is probably? 6:30? Let's get dark by then. So you got home at 6:30,
Yeah.
and how did you dig a hole in? What did you
Oh, my
do
grandpa.
Sunday? Well, I'm not asking what your grandpa. What you got home at 6:30 Sunday? What did you do then?
In the woods.
I'm such a not dirt kind of girl.
Yeah.
That's amazing to me. I don't do worms and I don't do dirt.
Well, I'm in rugby,
Oh,
and so like we do a lot of contact physical in the mud and whatnot. And
there's several
really
girls
enjoy
playing
that.
rugby. That's kind of the thing right now, isn't it?
Yeah.
The interrogation turns into a friendly conversation between the juvenile counselor, Ms. Toby Mayer. The woman sat next to Alyssa and told the rest of the room about how girls' rugby is a new sport to the area.
High school girl rugby, and they get after it.
Oh, I'm sure they
Yes,
do.
they do.
The school
I'm
doesn't
sure
sponsor
they
it
do.
because it's too dangerous, but there's a team in Jeff
I
City.
know there's at least 2
Good for
teams
them.
in Jeff City.
Yes. I'm not sure about the other one, but I don't know. So
And you love it.
I do.
And you love the mud. And
It's
you
so
love
much
dirt
fun.
under your fingernails. Do you mind worms?
Sergeant Rice gets right back to business, steering the conversation back to the holes.
This hole that you dug, when did you dig that hole?
Sunday, I
Sunday.
believe. Yes.
Why did you dig that hole?
Because Sunday I was bored. You don't really do much on Sunday. Can't watch TV, play video games, you know. So Saturday, Saturday.
There's something in her voice that tells you she's not being entirely truthful. She's also beginning to nod her head a lot, which could be her way of trying to convince Sergeant Rice that her story is true.
When did you dig it?
Ooh. I think my grandpa would have the exact time.
This statement is odd. It's unclear how or why Alyssa's grandpa would know the exact time the hole was dug, especially considering what is revealed later.
I don't know.
What were you doing Sunday? Tell me about Sunday.
Her nonverbal indicators are more obvious. Look for the self-pacifying behaviors mentioned earlier, in addition to new behaviors like lip licking and interlocking fingers.
We didn't go to church Sunday, right? Because we were at Mom's house, I believe. I was at my mom's house for the weekend. She lives at the lake. And we came back around 5, and I know I got there before dark, so it was sometime in between. Wait, what time did we come home? Well, it must have been in between like 6:30 and 7, I guess.
You picked her up where?
Eugene.
You picked her up at 6 p.m. at Eugene. And it's how long of a drive? So you got back home 6:30, 6:45 is probably?
It was in my
6:30?
It's the 5 minutes.
Let's get dark by then. So you got home at 6:30.
Yeah.
And how did you dig a hole? What did you do Sunday? Well, I'm not asking what your grandpa. What you got home at 6:30 Sunday? What did you do then?
Oh, well, I think I took a shower and went to sleep, so I don't think I did. I think it was Saturday, actually. No, someone here Saturday.
Bustamante is digging herself deeper and deeper into her own hole.
You weren't here Saturday.
Oh.
On Sunday.
Right.
Monday.
I think it was Friday then, because I was here Friday.
It wouldn't seem possible.
Right. Right.
And you weren't here Saturday.
Right.
And you didn't do it during the week, because it was on Monday, Tuesday.
Right.
So then you're thinking it had to be Friday.
Yes.
These weaknesses in her story will later be exploited in the interrogation. But for now, David is playing it close to his chest. He's aware her story is changing, and it seems like Alyssa is also realizing that her story is starting to fall apart.
Okay, so tell me about Friday. Remember Friday? Did you go to school on Friday?
We didn't have school Friday.
No school on
So
Friday.
I got up and I was
Okay.
like,
So were Grandma and Grandpa home on Friday? Did you work on Friday? You worked half day, so we get back home at noon. Okay, so was she asleep when you got home? Okay. So then Friday, what'd you do? Think back to Friday.
After getting up, I hung out for a while at the house, and it was a nice day Friday.
She is deflecting or attempting to redirect focus elsewhere. In certain contexts, hair stroking is a pacifying behavior. Hair stroking is not one of Bustamante's baseline behaviors and is occurring in a high-pressure context. This is likely a pacifying behavior. Bustamante is uncomfortable.
Relatively nice day, so I decided to go outside, just do whatever, and then go home.
Alyssa's bouncing around more than she was at the beginning of the interrogation. She's rocking back and forth, nodding her head. It seems that as her story is unraveling, so are her nerves of steel.
Why did you dig that hole?
Because I'm bored, and I felt like doing something.
Tell me about that hole, though. It's a very specific hole. It's a very unique hole, I should say.
Are all of your holes like that? No.
But why? You dug the hole, so you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
Bryce is describing the hole in a vague way to see if Alyssa might add anything that would explain why she dug it. She doesn't really have an answer or a reason to give as to why she dug that particular hole.
That was a very, very unique hole.
I get it. I was digging. I mean, whatever shape comes to mind. I was just kind of getting into it.
The reason I'm asking, it just seems like and you can understand why, as if people were out in the woods looking for a person, if they were lost, or God forbid, looking for, if they thought it was God forbid, a body, why they would be alarmed by that hole, because they're, come along a hole, freshly dug hole that was, I'm so thinking, a perfect rectangle about 3 feet by about 4.5, 5 foot, straight shovel marks down, about, as you described when I talked to you out there, about that deep.
Interrogators probe for specific answers after asking broad, open-ended questions. This is, again, part of the TED interrogative technique, or the tell, explain, describe technique. Imagine the flow of interrogation as a funnel. Alyssa's interrogation has become more focused, narrower. Rice is asking a very specific, probing question. Not only does he ask a very specific, probing question, but he illustrates with his hands the exact size and shape of the hole.
Straight down the first few inches of dirt, until you get to that real hard packed dirt, almost as if somebody were digging down. Got to a point where you get to those roots in that hard dirt and realize it's too hard to dig. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Rice relays details and speculation surrounding the crime scene, but does so from Alyssa's perspective. Alyssa is likely to identify with the story he tells. Liars tend to distance themselves from their lies, but Rice has psychologically repositioned her into a self-identifying mindset. Her nonverbal indicators become increasingly prominent.
Most people, if they were just going to bury a bunny or something out there, they dig. I'm digging a hole, by God, just dig a hole. But for a 15-year-old girl to dig a perfectly rectangle 3 by 4 or 5 square rectangle hole, it just caught a lot of people as very odd.
That makes sense.
The hole Alyssa dug is the perfect size and shape for a small grave. It's a perfect 3-foot by 5-foot rectangle, shallow, and is alarming to come across during a search for a missing child.
What do you think about that?
When Sergeant Rice asks, "What do you think about that?" to Alyssa, he's using the theory of the crime development, where the investigator knows there was a crime, but doesn't understand all the steps involved and doesn't fully comprehend the motive. This is where interrogators will use deceptively innocent questions to get the suspect to fill in the gaps and create a plausible working understanding of the events.
Well, I guess, the timing for getting that is definitely not good.
Have you ever dug a hole like that before?
Yeah.
There's an entire discussion about other holes of similar shape and size that she's dug before. These holes are where she buries animals, but there's no clear indication if Alyssa happened upon these animals' bodies or killed them herself.
It doesn't matter if it's a year old. They have sonar. They can run right over it. They can tell you the shape, the depth, the whole thing. We're talking about guys that have the FBI. They have instruments that can do just about everything.
This is subtle intimidation meant to imply that Alyssa need not lie.
Have you dug a hole like this before then, or is this the first time?
It's not completely like this, but it's like kind of like that.
Okay,
Like
so
big
this.
enough for a shoebox.
Okay, but this is the first time of that size.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
But what about the big mountain that I kept falling in? I mean, they're deep. And I kept telling you guys quit doing this because you're dangerous. And we see a lot of horses up there, and I think,
Sure.
I mean, they're huge.
Okay.
There's like 3 to 4 of them. Yeah.
Are you digging?
Now this is on our property.
Digging pits for what? Okay.
And we like to make traps, just occasionally, put some sticks over it, and some leaves.
Yeah, we
For you to break a leg.
We pull them in, yeah.
Well, if they have horses, that's not a good idea, is it?
Well, we don't ride our horses out there.
As I'm saying, you know, if a horse breaks its leg, what happens?
I know, but we
Yeah.
didn't do that. We do it.
Well, we used to.
We used to, but we don't.
You have horses.
We did.
Horses.
I do.
They're not rectangle.
Big round ones.
I don't know what that is.
Okay. Did you ever go on walks with you in the woods?
Nope.
The questions asked here are entrapment questions, and if any inconsistencies are found, the suspect's statements would be treated as lies. This type of questioning places additional pressure on the suspect as the interrogation continues.
I've
I know
never
you
seen
said
her.
she was a girly girl.
Yeah, I've
but-
never seen her.
Okay. I mean, did you ever take her on walks in the woods or anything like that?
When I go on walks.
Okay.
Here we see a clear inconsistency in what Alyssa is saying and what her body is saying. When asked if she has ever gone on walks with Elizabeth in the woods, Alyssa states no. Her head movement transitions from side to side to up and down. Alyssa's body tells a different story.
What do you know about all of this so far? Obviously, unfortunately, your poor family's been thrown in the middle of this.
His additional comments, such as, "Your poor family has been thrown into the middle of this," relay that he feels sympathy for Alyssa and her family, however false that sympathy might be.
What do you know about this whole investigation on this?
She's still missing. They're out looking for her. They don't have any volunteers. There's no volunteers so far. This is really big. We've had helicopters searching as well. And that's pretty much what I know.
As noted previously, she responds cognitively rather than from a place of feeling. She doesn't have much to say about her family when Toby and Sergeant Rice start empathizing with what Elizabeth's family must be feeling. And interestingly, her face falls into a neutral expression, and she stays silent.
Yeah, her mom, her family.
I mean, that's why they're making such a big deal about this. I mean, can you, like I said, when you can understand why all this
Thundering
is
down
going
the
on.
stairs when I was screaming outside. I mean, I just can't.
I know, I've got kids. What do you think happened?
Sergeant Rice moves into opinion questions now. Many interrogation questions are closed, meaning they warrant a yes or no response, or elicit a single fact or piece of information. Opinion questions are open-ended. Interrogation studies have shown that open-ended questions will get all suspects to talk longer and to be more likely to divulge incriminating evidence without even realizing it.
Well, I really don't think she would run away because she's 9. And the way they've been searching for 2 days, never got any sign of her. So I think that maybe someone kidnapped her or something. It's a terrible thing. I don't know what to assume.
Innocent individuals might be more likely to mention that they don't know. Guilty individuals might feel more compelled to provide an explanation that doesn't fit with the crime they committed. We see this as Alyssa evades the topic of murder.
Would she have easily been lured into a car? I mean, was she that kind of girl? I don't would she, I mean, would she have been like with a kitten? I mean,
Maybe. We'd have to ask her about it, sure.
Do you think somebody did something to you? Is that?
That seems more like, I don't think she'd be the kind of person to just like hide or stay out all night or anything.
Okay. Is there anybody in that area you can think of that comes to mind that you would think of that would do that? Is there anybody that, knowing your neighbors, that you would?
Rice baits Alyssa to place blame. Guilty suspects commonly deflect and offer helpful explanations, as Alyssa does here.
There is a lot of cars to check out on highway.
Okay, just a few opinion questions. I'm just asking your opinion.
What follows are loaded questions. Here is the first one broken down.
What type of person would do this sort of thing to a 9-year-old?
1. It's assumptive. It assumes that someone did something to Elizabeth. 2. It's vague. It assumes that someone did something but doesn't specify what that something is. 3. Use of this versus that. This is used as a definite article. In grammar, the function of a definite article is to imply but not state what is being referred to. In other words, this is used in such a way that the speaker is assuming that the listener knows what this is. Further, this implies that something is closer to the listener, whereas that implies that something is further away. 4. Use of 9-year-old girl. This is distancing language, or language that creates psychological distance from the main topic of discussion, i.e. use of that versus my. Up until this point, they've referred to Elizabeth by name. It also calls attention to Elizabeth's vulnerability. 5. It's a mirror. Guilty parties are forced to analyze themselves and resultingly come face to face with who they are and why they did what they did. This can produce observable signs of cognitive dissonance, a subjective experience of discomfort when two or more ways of thinking, feeling, or otherwise experiencing clash. The dissonance may include discordant ideas, beliefs, behavior, etc.
What type of person would do this sort of thing to an idea?
Sick person, like someone that, I don't know, who put down all their morals and just take an idea on their own.
Alyssa pauses, stutters, and struggles to get the words out. She's looking in the mirror. She parrots Rice, 9-year-old girl, using a parallel tone and inflection. Sociopaths and psychopaths hide in plain sight by observing and mimicking mannerisms and behaviors of those around them. The word "this" served as a placeholder. Whatever Alyssa said would represent what she knew this to be, but Alyssa evaded this trap. She could have filled that placeholder with "kill," but she filled it with "take." On the other hand, this could be seen as a slip-up, as Alyssa did technically take Elizabeth into the woods.
Whenever we find out what happened to her, if somebody did something to her, what do you think should happen?
I think we should give, it's all the trouble that they cause each other.
Alyssa is faced with her fate. We can see and hear her cognitive dissonance in her ums, pauses, and nonverbals, which all indicate discomfort. There are many areas in which Alyssa could slip up and incriminate herself. For instance, she could use possessive language, say I instead of they. She may be aware of this, suggestive from her halting breaks in speech. The next questions that follow are direct and straight to the point, even though he prefaces that he asks everybody these questions.
I'm going to ask you because I ask everybody. Did you do anything to?
No.
Did you cause her disappearance?
No.
Fucking way, bro.
No.
Do you know where she's at right now?
No.
Okay.
Alyssa's responses may seem convincing. She says no with conviction, appearing to shake her head back and forth in tandem.
My fucking god,
We
bro.
covered that
I got
inconsistencies
my
between
first
verbal and
fucking
nonverbal
purple.
behaviors imply lying. So why do Alyssa's verbal and nonverbal behaviors appear consistent with one another? A closer look reveals that Alyssa, ever so slightly, nods her head up and down after each no response. Incongruent head movements are more.
It's my first purple, boys. 2% chance of a unique. 2% chance of a unique there. Look at that. I'm gonna open it here. Give me a shadow. Give me a shadow. I pulled the shadow! Fuck yeah! A billion fucking GP! I just pulled the Tumikin Shadow, dude. $1.7 million, dude. Oh no, 1 billion GP. A billion GP.
What's my log looking like? 235.
Need at the start. Money and stats.